Hello. Child Within, Healing the Child Within, Self-Help Book, Context is Everything Media Network, book from 1984. Chapter 5, Parental Conditions That Tend to Stifle the Child Within. How can a mother, other parent figure, or later in life, a close friend be able to help us meet many of our needs? In general, they must have had their needs met as a child or worked through a process as adults of healing their own child within and learning to get their needs met, the parent, the friend, to help somebody else. They have to have their needs met. However, certain conditions may interfere with getting needs met. The more deprived, more severe, or advanced the parents' and family's conditions, the less the child's needs tend to be met. These parental conditions are listed in Table 3. The word parental means not only the parent, but also may include siblings and anyone else. And in the life of an older child, and certainly that of an old adult, refers to any close or otherwise influential person. Alcoholism and other chemical dependencies. Alcoholism or other chemical dependencies can be defined as reoccurring trouble, problems, or difficulties associated with drinking or drug use. The trouble may occur in one or more of several areas, including relationships, education, legal, financial, health, spiritual, and occupational. Here's Table 3 here. I'm going to read it, and I'm going to carry on. Table 3, parental conditions associated with dynamics of adult children of alcoholics and other dysfunctional families. Alcoholism, other chemical dependencies, codependencies, chronic mental illness and dysfunctional physical illness, extreme rigidity, punitive, judgmental, non-loving, perfectionistic, inadequacy, child abuse, physical, sexual, mental, emotional, spiritual. Other conditions, those associated with post-traumatic stress disorder. We know that children of alcoholics, COAs, as other family members, tend to be unaware that their parent or other family member is an alcoholic or dependent on other drugs. Black, a writer, estimates that close to half of adult children of alcoholics deny parent drinking problem, and up to 90% of COAs, children of alcoholics, who themselves become alcohol dependent or chemically dependent, cannot identify a parental drinking problem. This lack of awareness of is a major source of family chaos. Chaos results in extensive, destructive, and unnecessary acceptance, as well as self-blame and guilt among family members. Any reader who wonders or is concerned about parents or another relative drinking or drug use may find it helpful to answer the following family drinking survey. If you are no longer living with a family member in question, or if they are deceased, try to answer these questions as though you were still living with them. If it is drug use about which you have been concerned, substitute drug use for drinking in the following questions. Family drinking survey. Each of these have a yes or no answer. So I'm going to read all of these questions. I see 20 on this page, and it may carry on to the next. Question 1 of the family drinking or drug use survey. Does someone in your family undergo personality changes when he or she drinks to excess? Question 2. Do you feel that drinking is more important to this person than you are? Number 3. Do you feel sorry for yourself or frequently indulge in self-pity because of what you feel alcohol is doing to your family? These are yes or no answers you give. Number 4. Has some family members' excessive drinking ruined special occasions? Number 5. Do you find yourself covering up for the consequences of somebody else's drinking? Number 6. Have you ever felt guilty, apologetic, or responsible for the drinking of a member of your family? Number 7. Does one of your family members' use of alcohol cause fights and arguments? Number 8. Have you ever tried to fight the drinker by joining in the drinking? Have you ever tried to fight the drinker by joining in the drinking? I don't understand what that means. Number 9. Do the drinking habits of some family members make you feel depressed or angry? Number 10. Is your family having financial difficulties because of drinking? Number 11. Did you ever feel like you had an unhappy home life because of drinking or some members of your family? Number 12. Have you ever tried to control the drinker's behavior by hiding car keys, pouring liquor down the drain, etc.? Number 13. Do you find yourself distracted from your responsibilities because this person's drinking? Number 14. Do you often worry about this family member's drinking? Number 15. Are holidays more a nightmare than a celebration because of family members' drinking behaviors? Number 16. Are most of your drinking family members' friends heavy drinkers? Are most of your drinking family members' friends heavy drinkers? Number 17. Do you find it necessary to lie to employers, relatives, or friends in order to hide your family members drinking? Do you find yourself responding differently to members of your family when they are using alcohol? Number 19. Have you ever been embarrassed or felt the need to apologize for a drinker's actions? Number 20. Does some family members' use of alcohol make you fear your own safety or the safety of others in your family? Number 21. Have you ever thought that one of your family members had a drinking problem? Number 22. Have you ever lost sleep because of family members drinking? Number 23. Have you ever encouraged one or of your family members to stop or cut down on his or her drinking? Number 24. Have you ever threatened to leave home or to leave a family member because of his or her drinking? Number 25. Did a family member ever make promises that he or she did not keep because of drinking? Number 26. Did you ever wish that you could talk to somebody who could understand and help the alcohol-related problems of your family member? 27. Have you ever felt sick, cried, or had a knot in your stomach after worrying about a family member's drinking? Number 28. Has a family member ever failed to remember what occurred during a drinking period? Number 29. Does your family member avoid social situations where alcoholic beverages will not be served? Number 30. Does your family member have periods of remorse after drinking occasions and apologize for his or her behavior? Number 31. Please write any symptoms or nervous problems that you have experienced since you have known your heavy drinker. If you answered yes to 2 of the 31 questions, there's a good possibility that someone in your family may have a drinking problem. If you've answered yes to 4 or more of the above questions, there is a definite indication that someone in your family does indeed have a drinking problem. Okay. This comes from the Howard Family Questionnaire and from the Family Alcohol Quiz from Al Anon. And it was referenced in Whitfield. Codependence. This is a term that they've mentioned a few times in this book so far, and here is some more exposition into the term codependence. The next condition is codependence, or codependency, originally termed co-alcoholism in the 1970s. Codependence is far more inclusive in the 1980s. 5 definitions can be found on Table 4, which is about to begin. Codependence is a condition that stifles our true self, our child within. It results from and contributes to all of the parental conditions in Table 3 above. We can begin to define codependence as any suffering or dysfunction that is associated with or results from focusing on the needs and behaviors of others. Table 4. Some definitions of codependence. An exaggerated dependent pattern of learned behaviors, beliefs, and feelings that make life painful. It is a dependence on people and things outside of the self, along with neglect of self to the point of having little self-identity. That's from Smalley, cited in the Wingschneider Cruise. Second definition for codependence: preoccupation and extreme dependence, emotionally, socially, and sometimes physically, on a person or object. Eventually, this dependence on another person becomes a pathological condition that affects the codependent in all other relationships. This may include all persons who, 1, are in a love or marriage relationship with another alcoholic, 2, have one or more alcoholic parents or grandparents, or 3, grew up in an emotionally repressive family. It is a primary disease, and the disease with every member of an alcoholic family. Grew up with an emotionally repressive family. It is a primary disease and a disease within every member of an alcoholic family. Number 3, definition of codependence: ill health, maladaptive, or problematic behavior that is associated with living with, working with, or otherwise being close to a person with alcoholism, the chemical dependence, or other chronic impairment. It affects not only individuals but families, communities, businesses, and other institutions, and even whole societies. Definition 4 for codependence: an emotional, psychological, and behavioral pattern of coping that develops as a result of an individual's prolonged exposure to and practice of a set of oppressive rules which prevent the open expression of feelings as well as the direct discussion of personal and interpersonal problems. Definition 5 of codependence: a disease that has many forms and expressions and that grows out of a disease process that I call the additive process. The addictive process that I call the addictive process. The addictive process is an unhealthy and abnormal disease process whose assumptions, beliefs, behaviors, and lack of spiritual awareness lead to processes of non-living which is progressive. Codependence becomes so focused upon the preoccupied with important people in the life that they neglect their true self. As Schaef says in her book Codependence, it leads to processes of non-living, which is progressive. Endemic in ordinary humankind, codependence can mimic, be associated with, and aggravate many conditions. It develops from turning our responsibility for our life and happiness over to our ego and to other people. Oh God. Oh God. No way. Oh my God. This is long. Development of codependence. The genesis of codependence begins by the repression of observations of feeling and reaction. Others, often our parents, and eventually we, begin to invalidate these, are often crucial internal cues. Usually early in the process, we begin to deny a family secret or another secret. Because we focus so much on the needs of others, we begin to neglect our own needs, and by doing so, we stifle our child within. But we still have feelings, often of hurt. Since we continue to stuff our feelings, we become increasingly tolerant of emotional pain. We often become numb, and because of stuff our feelings Because we stuff our feelings, we are unable to grieve our everyday losses to completion. All of the above blocks are growth and development in the mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects of our being. But we have a desire to contact and know our true self. We learn that quick fixes, such as compulsive behaviors, will allow us to glimpse our true self and will let off some of the tension. However, if the shame and resulting lower self-esteem, at this point we may begin to feel more and more out of control, and we may try to compensate by the need to control even more. We may end up deluded and hurt and often project our pain onto others. Our tension has now built to such an extent that we may develop stress-related illness, manifested by aches and pains and often dysfunction of one or more body organs. We are now in an advanced state of codependence and may progressively deteriorate, so that we experience one or more of extreme mood swings, difficulty with intimate relationships, and chronic unhappiness. For those who are attempting to recover from alcoholism, other chemical dependencies, or another condition or illness, this advanced state of codependence may seriously interfere. The development of codependence may thus be summarized as follows. Growth of codependence. Invalidation and repression of internal cues, such as our observations, feelings, and reactions. 2. Neglecting our needs. 3. Beginning to stifle our child within. 4. Denial of a family or other secret. 5. Increasing tolerance of the numbness to emotional pain. 6. Inability to grieve a loss to completion. 7. Blocking of growth, mental, emotional, and spiritual. 8. Compulsive behaviors in order to lessen pain and to glimpse our child within. Progressive shame. 9. And loss of self-esteem. 10. Feeling out of control, need to control more. 11. Delusion and projection of pain. 12. Stress-related illness develops. 13. Compulsion worsens. 14. Progressive deterioration, extreme mood swings, difficulty with intimate relationships, chronic unhappiness, interference with recovery of alcoholism, CD, and other conditions. Whether we are an infant or a child growing up with such a codependent person, or whether we are an adult living with or close to them, it is highly likely that with our present awareness and coping skills, we will be negatively affected by the process described in the first half of this book. Our true self will be stifled. The subtleties of codependence. And this will be the last section that I read today, and we'll finish chapter 5 tomorrow. Codependence is one of the most common conditions causing confusion and stifling the world. It may be subtle in its manifestation and therefore difficult to identify. The following is a case history of Karen, a 45-year-old woman whose parents were codependent, and through growing up with them, she became codependent herself. Quote, "When I heard the characteristics of adult children of alcoholics described, I saw a lot of myself in them. So I looked and I looked for the alcoholic in my family background and couldn't find one. I found I had to look deeper, as my parents both had lots of characteristics of codependence. My father was a workaholic. He was such a success, but he gave his time and energy to everyone except his family. He was a mayor of our town, and I felt guilty when I asked him for attention. He just wasn't there for me as a father and to help me when I was growing up. My mother was a compulsive overeater. Although I didn't know it at the time, she wasn't the mother I needed either. They both trained me to be a self-sacrificer and a real people pleaser. I married 2 alcoholic men. I gradually became so focused on them that I neglected my own needs and felt like I was losing my mind. I didn't know how to say no to people because my life was going so badly. I tried to correct people. Because my life was going so badly, I tried to correct it the only way I knew how from my past. I worked harder. I went back to college, getting into super responsibility and compulsive overactivity, and I neglected my needs even more. I was depressed and became progressively more depressed, so much so that I took an overdose of sleeping pills. That was my bottom. In desperation, I called AA, and they told me to go to Al-Anon, which I did. I attended a meeting every day, and I loved it. Now it's 6 months later, and I still attend 1 meeting a week. I also have 2.5 years of group therapy and several months of individual therapy. I found it all very helpful. Looking back, I discovered that not only my recovery program was helpful mentally and emotionally, but it was great to help me spiritually. I discovered that my biggest problem was with my mother, on whom I had come to depend regarding how I was supposed to feel about how I was supposed to live. I was so sick that I couldn't even feel and live for myself. I had to look to others to see how to live and feel. I was angry at my mother for this and at my father for supporting her, for doing so, and for his not being there for me when I needed him. And I picked 2 husbands who were unknowingly encouraging me. And I picked 2 husbands who unknowingly encouraged me to continue all of these patterns. I'm so glad that I made a recovery. Karen's story represents some of the subtle manifestations of codependence. And we will carry on tomorrow with Chapter 5. Yes. Goodbye. Have a good day. God bless.